Hey folks, welcome back to the OneCast with Ben, Pete, and Trey. We are going to talk high school B.A.S.S. and what it takes to take the stepping stones to move into the professional bass fishing industry.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Trey here with the OneCast. I'm joined with Ben and Pete to my left, maybe to your right. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, Trey. Thanks for the introduction. Looking forward to this topic, too. Talk about high school angling and getting the youth involved. So this is part of what we want to do here at OneCast is to explore the different avenues that folks can get into fishing at all different ages.
Yep, doing good, Trey. Ben took the words out of my mouth there. Excited for this one for sure.
Let's throw that shameless plug in real quick. If you guys are interested in the snagless revolution, head on over to onecastfishing.com. Use the code THEONECAST to save money at checkout. We appreciate your support. We appreciate the sponsorship. We're going to jump right into it. So today we're joined with Mr. Darrel and Mr. Kieran from North Carolina, who are involved in a significant amount of high school bass fishing. And I'm going to throw some awesome stats out here. I wish I had these stats myself. So from the B.A.S.S. side, we're tracking that you got 2 first-place finishes, 3 second-place finishes, a 10th in the Bass Junior Championship. On the Bass Federation side, 5 first-place finishes, a 10th World Championship finish, and then the Collins Bass for Cash, 6 first-place finishes, and a 2021 points champion, or like we call it, Angler of the Year. Darrel, Kieran, how are you guys doing tonight? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, we're doing great, guys. Thank y'all for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome.
We're just having a good time and getting ready to go to Harris Shannon Lakes.
He's like, the car handled real good. Car handled real good.
Head down to Harris Chain that's your first high school B.A.S.S. event for the year?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome, man. So, Darrel, Kieran, why don't you guys introduce yourself to the viewers and kind of just give a little backstory on this whole deal and how it got started?
Sure, I'll kick it off. So I'm Darrel Stevenson. Again, I'm Kieran's dad. Really, so we got into this. Kieran started pond fishing for catfish at like 2 years old. He's absolutely hooked on it. He wanted to go every time I had a free moment. We were stationed, I was active duty military Marine. I was stationed in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we lived in northern Kentucky. And so we would pond hop and just catfish every opportunity that we would get. And then we moved to North Carolina after I retired, and we moved to Fuquay Marina. And it was really just, we started fishing out Sharon Harris all the time, having, a great time catching fish. We mostly fished for crappie at that point. And Kieran's like, Dad, I want to bass fish. I'm like, okay, that's a little stretch for me. I've never really done it, but I mean, I had done it, but not to what he wanted to do. So we started, kind of getting into it together. And then after, I'd say 6 months or so, he said, Dad, I want to fish a tournament. I want to fish a bass tournament. And so the progression just started. I started looking for an opportunity to fish, in bass tournaments locally, figure out what I needed. And we initially started out with the Collins Youth Educational Series. And it was a great opportunity for us. It allowed me to learn as a dad and a boat captain, but it also allowed Kieran to just understand what tournament fishing took. And he was hooked from the first tournament. We didn't catch fish initially, but he absolutely was hooked. And I couldn't really just tell him no. And I like I tell a lot of people, when a kid gets up at 2:30 in the morning and ready to go with no problems asked, you know that they love it, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
That's some dedication right there.
Yeah, that's how we started, and I'll let him talk just kind of what his experience was or what he felt kind of as we were going through it.
So my name's Kieran Stevenson, and basically we've been fishing. I've been fishing since I was 2 years old, and just loved like the sport, and just have got more and more into it. And I mean, every time you're on the water, you're learning new things, and that's the good thing about it, that you're able to connect with nature, and you're also able to just like learn like life lessons that you're going to need in the big world, because there's so many just like different things that you can do out there, and you'll see just a bunch of like crazy occasions, but that's really it.
Yeah, there's nothing like waking up and being on the water while the rest of the people are sleeping. You know what I mean? And getting to see those cool things. I'm curious to know, and Darrel, you talked about, he started fishing at 2 and he got hooked into it. Kieran, what was the moment that you said, bass? I want to fish for bass. Like, what clicked in your head to make you say bass?
So we were crappie fishing at the Sharon Harris Bridge, the main bridge, and I was using a little dock demon, and we were using a slip bobber with minnows, and I hooked like about a 5.5 pounder, and right since that we just kept fishing for bass, and that was the little match that started, and just been on since.
I feel that. It's always that first one that gets you hooked. I remember when I started, man, I think the first bass that I remember, I was about 5 years old, and we had a camp on a little lake in Pennsylvania, and the fish had moved up to spawn, and my dad was walking around with me, and he seen one out there on the bed. About a 6 pounder was the first bass I ever caught.
Really?
At like 5 years old, and he flipped out there and hooked that thing and handed me that rod, and it's been over since then. Like, that's something you don't forget. So that's cool to hear.
I think we all have stories like that. It's a great, at least of my dad and I. He was in the Marine Corps too, and so we didn't get the opportunity to go very much. But I do remember he was on recruiting duty in Arkansas, and we went one afternoon after church, and I ended up catching 2 bass, and he only caught 1, and I've been a better fisherman ever since. But let's not go into deer woods because he can put me to shame there. But
Yeah.
So, the question about the 5 pounder that you hooked. You said you hooked it, or did you land it?
Both. So I hooked it on the dock demon. I fought it around the whole boat, and
a boat flip.
those are like the strongest rods you'll ever put in your hands. And that thing took me around the boat, and we had a little net in the back of we had a skiff at the time, and we put it in the net, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a giant. So we put it in so we had a makeshift cooler, and we put it in there, and we brought it home. But then we took a picture with it and weighed it, and then we took it to our friend's pond or something.
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell the rest of the guys to share.
Sharon Harris guys will be all over the world.
No, that's awesome. And there is such a thing as bass fever. You get buck fever in the woods, you get bass fever. I caught a 5'10". I'm sure you guys saw the picture of it on Jordan a couple days ago, and my hands were shaking like it was the first time I ever caught a bass. Like, that doesn't go away. And I think when that goes away, you probably need to move on to something else. And kind of a cool backstory for those who are listening or watching. The way that I met Darrel and Kieran was actually on Sharon Harris Lake. Do you guys remember that?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Rolled up in you rolled up in the Ranger, and we got on a school of fish, and we just started hammering them, dragging worms and stuff like that, and that was a great time. And and I think that's another great part about just fishing in general in the fishing industry is you meet so many good people, and you get to understand how diverse the culture is in the fishing industry. A lot of veterans in the North Carolina area, but just so many different people fishing and so many cool experiences. And we want to talk about some of those experiences. So,
I want to, before we get too far away from Collins, I kind of want, that's a really cool program that they have, and it's sort of unique. I hadn't really seen it till I saw their program. So can you kind of explain what that is for anybody listening that may not know?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So Collins Bass for Cash is the adult series. Beneath that is the youth educational series. The way it kind of works, the youth educational series, they go to all the same locations as the Bass for Cash guys go. Whenever they take off in the morning, we take off second. We go out after them when it's a little bit, less fast paced and stuff like that. And then we come in to weigh in. It's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon generally. And we're done weigh in by 2:30, 2:45. And then those guys, the adults, come in afterwards. And it's really it's a great series because it literally is like any adult, any B.A.S.S series. It's ran exactly the same way. Weigh-in trailer and everything. So you learn all about bass fishing. You learn all about tournament fishing. They expect the kids to learn and, fish management, take care of fish, try not to kill fish. You learn all of that. They help you. They make sure that they're doing the right things with life jackets and all that stuff. You know, you got to have all of that before you go out. Really, the requirements for kids to fish in it is they got to be over 2 years old, or really, I've never seen Fred and those guys at Collins turn anybody away as long as the kid's, you know, ready to go out and go fishing on the boat safely. They expect you to have a working live well, and there is no entry fee, and you can win prizes. And if you win the point series of the championship, you can win a scholarship at the end of the season. And they fish a lot of the local lakes. We do Carr, we do Gaston, we do Jordan, Kieran's favorite, Chowan River. We do the Roanoke River sometimes. You know, all of the good local lakes around here. They start in March and it goes through August or September. And then they do a 2-day super tournament at the end. The adults, very competitive. The weights some of the weights are just incredible what they do. And, you know, it's shockingly, the youth are very competitive too. And we have a couple of teams from the middle school that we field, and it's a good time. And the kids, you know, really, I mean, they get exposed to what tournament fishing should be like.
That's awesome. So is that on the Collins Bass for Cash website? Is that link there? So anybody listening, if you head to the Collins Bass for Cash and look at the youth educational series, if it's something you're interested in doing, if you have a kid that wants to get into tournament fishing or wants to fish a tournament, it's a really cool deal, as you just heard. So definitely worth checking out.
And you know, I will say this: people say, "Well, maybe I don't have a bass boat." We have people that go out there with skiffs. But like I said, the requirement is a boat over 16 feet with a working live well, and you know, there's no horsepower restrictions. So if you're running a 15 horsepower motor, it's fine, because you'd be surprised what you can catch some of those sneaky little areas, you know. And I reiterate, it's getting kids out and fishing, and it's some of the best time I've ever had. I've coached a lot of sports, and this has been my favorite because there's a lot of just conversations that happen with kids, you know, when they're fishing, and you learn a lot about dedication. I tell a lot of parents when they're asking about it, to see a kid just work as hard as they can for 8 hours is amazing. Yeah. And so I encourage everybody to try it. And with the Collins, you know, like you alluded to, on the website there, you can go ahead and sign up for the year, or you can sign up for one tournament. They don't require that you fish all of them. You know, you can go out there and try one and see if you like it, and then build from there. And that's kind of what we did. Our first tournament was on Jordan. It was freezing cold. We didn't catch a fish, but we had a good time. And you know, the crazy thing is, we got done fishing. I was exhausted. Kieran was ready to continue to fish that day. After the tournament was over, he wanted to fish some coves because he didn't get enough that day. So it was, like I said, it's a great opportunity.
I think that's really interesting. And for the parents and for the kids that are listening or watching, you don't need $100,000 bass boat, like you said, to get out there and do some fishing. But you do need to be a dedicated parent or boat captain, right? Because it's going to push you just as hard as it's going to push the kids, right? You still got to get up at the same time as them, and you still got to help, you know, maneuver that boat so that they can get to the spots where they need to fish. So to kind of break the stigma that so many people have in the industry that you have to have all this money and all these shiny glitter boats and stuff like that, that's not needed, right?
No, not at all. In fact, our first boat was a Tracker Pro 170. 17-foot bass tracker that you can get at, you know, at Bass Pro. Nothing glamorous. It worked great, you know, and it got us where we needed to go. And we caught a lot of fish in it, you know, and we've seen people with the like I said, the center console, like the John boat type center consoles. They do well. They do fine in them. And so, and you're right, you know, it's the parents, a boat that's safe, right, and something that you're not going to kill every fish that you bring in the boat. That's really, you know, all it takes.
No, that's amazing.
And you know, you take it as far as the kid wants to go. I think that's where I go with it.
Yep.
You know, he's obviously loves it, and we're, you know, is kind of full bore ahead where we want to go. He has a goal in mind, but you know, I know where he started from, and I know how hard he worked, so I'm willing to keep backing it.
That's awesome. So you guys fish the Collins Bass for Cash Youth Series. Are you fishing that this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we move on to, and we'll talk about roles and responsibilities. You're also fishing the Bass Federation. Is that correct?
So not this year, I don't believe, because North Carolina's kind of fallen off.
Okay.
With regards to Bass Federation, the tournament director that was Mr. Ennis that ran it for quite a few years, he stepped back. His sons have kind of moved on, and they're not as fishing as much. So I think the state is actually looking for a new director. But yeah, I mean, if there's an opportunity, we will. Yes.
Okay. And you fished, for the stats that we see with B.A.S.S, TBF, and Collins Bass for Cash, how many weekends in that season were you fishing a derby?
Probably
I would say close to 30.
Wow. And that's
that's not including
pre-fishing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's dedication right there. That's not going to practice 45 minutes a night, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. You know, that takes some dedication, but you know, those life lessons on the water, those are hard to beat. Go ahead, Ben.
So these multiple wins and 10th in June champion, this is all from last year then, right?
The last 2 years.
The last 2 years. Okay. So I do want to bring this up. Kieran, what grade are you in?
8th grade.
8th grade. So for all those listening, you know, he's fishing the high school level, the B.A.S, the Bass level tournaments, but he's not in high school. So if you want to, you know, let us know, because I'm not super educated on the high school, you know, youth angler realm, mainly because, you know, 15, 16 years ago when I was in high school, I don't think there was such a thing, and there certainly wasn't college fishing where I was at. So you want to break it down to how does someone get involved into youth high school bass angling on a competitive level, especially if you're not in that school, because obviously you're not in high school yet, but I'm sure there's a lot of anglers, and I know one in my neighborhood, he wants to fish competitively for high school, but his school doesn't have a team. So if there's a way, you know, folks can get around that, if they're able to go to other schools, but if you just want to break it down, it'd be awesome.
So basically, the junior division, which I have fished last year, is 2nd grade to 8th grade, and if you're gonna fish with our 8th grader, and then you can fish up. If you have a partner in high school and you're in 8th grade, you can fish up. But if your partner's the same grade as you, then you'll fish in the junior division. So basically, I am fishing up this year with my partner. He is a freshman.
So
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And how you get involved, you know, a couple of different ways. So on the BASS website and also on the TBF website, there's information on how you start a club, and really that's what we did. Myself and Derek Stanley, Kieran's partner's dad, we kind of had some conversations. They started, you know, they were both fishing Collins separately, and we were at every tournament together, and then we had a conversation and we kind of paired them up, and that's so the 3rd year that we fished Collins, they actually fished together as a team. And we saw from those two fishing together as a team, it's just, they improved by tenfold, just because, you know, we're not sitting there having conversations with them. They're working with each other, doing two different things. They're able to bounce ideas off each other. They're able to keep each other motivated and stuff like that. You know, even when they miss fish, they just encourage each other and stuff like that. So we paired those two up, and we fished Collins for another year before we even started B.A.S.S and TBF as a team. And then when we realized that they were doing really well together, just fishing together as a team on the Collins stuff, we started looking for opportunities. And like I said, on the B.A.S.S website, it tells you how to start a club. It's how to join a club and how to start a club. And so we went down that path. We reached out to the middle school principal, and we asked for an opportunity to start a middle school club. And we kind of told them how we were going to do it, you know, and we try to get as many people as involved. They were like, absolutely. We definitely want to give y'all that opportunity. And when Kieran started with Grady, they were 6th and 7th grade. And obviously now Grady is up in high school and Kieran's an 8th grader. So this year, the transition for them, we had to move. Last year we finished up in the juniors, and then this year we moved up to high school because Kieran's fishing up. So now, because Grady's in the high school, we're technically a middle school and a high school team. But to answer your question, also, when you talk about a school not having a club, if a school says, hey, we don't want you to have that club because of insurance reasons or liabilities and stuff like that, you can create a community club. Now, so because of the way that Fuquay Marina is this year with, mass expansion and growth and people moving kids all over the place with regards to school and stuff, we know next year Kieran's supposed to go to Willow Springs, and Grady will be at Fuquay Marina, and a couple other kids on our team was supposed to go to Willow Springs also. We've made a community team, so now it can come from multiple high schools. So kind of the same thing. If a school says, we don't want you to have that because of liabilities, then you just start a community team and you get kids together and you get them registered through B.A.S.S or TBF. You do their membership and their registration and stuff like that, and then you honestly start seeking out the tournaments that they have and that they offer. And the season for B.A.S.S starts in the fall and wraps around to the spring, and the TBF does the same thing. So again, on their websites, the information on how to do it, it's not very hard. It takes a kind of minimal effort. They feed you all the paperwork and everything that you need. They tell you all the steps to go about it, and then you can get a team up and go.
That's really interesting. I had no idea that there was like the junior B.A.S.S, and then it's all affiliated, of course, but you had to stimulate the conversation with the school to get the support from them.
Yes.
But that was, what kind of support was that? Just a yes, do it, or yes, we want to invest into this sport? So
when we started out, there was no really investment from them. It was a yes, do it, to answer the question. And we opened it to everybody in the school really and just said, hey, we're going to have a club and we're going to be competitive and we want to do tournaments and stuff like that. But we're also, when we can find time, we're going to do some weekend pond hopping and just expose kids to fishing and see if we can progress kids from the pond hopping thing and if they'd really like to get into tournaments and stuff like that. And a couple of the kids that we have now fishing, even on the junior side, that's where they started. They were pond hopping, watching the brother fish the tournament, stuff like that. And now we have a young lady who's fishing. I think she's a 5th grader, and she's doing great. She is very dedicated to it. So she's even in elementary school fishing.
I think that's outstanding. Mm-hmm. Start with pond hoppers, and you all are probably tied in a little bit better with the younger generation. But from what I see, there seems to be more and more young anglers who are starting pond hopping that their parents really have no affiliation with fishing, or they haven't fished in years. And some of that's because of the social media and the YouTube content, that it's become exciting for folks to go out there and fish and laying out the junior division, middle school, high school, and all these other opportunities. It's great that anglers can now at such a young age can transition from just walking golf course ponds or asking their neighbors to doing something a little more competitive.
Yeah,
you're talking about the junior division. So we're here, I guess our roots, right, was in the junior division, and we moved up. We started B.A.S.S. We did really well in the junior division. We got an opportunity to go to the national championship. I was amazed at the dedication of the guys. When we got to Carroll County over in Tennessee and fished that large national championship tournament on that 1,000-acre lake there, there's still some really young kids that are phenomenal. And it's amazing. You see kids that pick up basketball or baseball and they're just a natural at it. Be surprised. Kids are natural at fishing too, right? And it's scary. I mean, they're really good. And I, even watching the progression with Kieran in the last few years, I have my phone is just overloaded with pictures of where we were and now where we're at. And I've watched him go learn how to do everything on the boat. I mean, literally everything on the boat, and his ability to run the electronics and stuff like that, and nobody's looking at everything. Maybe it's that, video game revolution or whatever, and he is kind of in tune with it, but it's it's really exciting to kind of see them progress and get it, as well as, just get it. And it's fun to see.
So, Darrel, Kieran, you guys talked, you said something earlier that, or maybe it was Ben said something about social media. And we talked about the Collins Bass for Cash and the TBF, and you kind of broke down a little bit of the high school B.A.S.S junior stuff and high school stuff, and we'll get more into that. But a question for you, Kieran, is how much has social media played a role in your like getting more excited into bass fishing and learning? Like, has social media played a big role for you?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's social media can hurt you and help you. I mean, it's like if you like do good in a tournament, you're gonna have people like talking about it. But I feel like nowadays there's gonna be like so many just like things you're gonna have to put out there, because that's just how you're gonna have to make money in the industry these days. And like you're just gonna have to like kind of, it's like you gotta like block it out, but still use it to advantage. And like, I don't know.
No, I think you nailed it when you talked about making money in social media. If fishing is your plan, college and after anything like that, social media is such a huge role now. And the larger sponsors you'll see the guys getting those bigger deals with companies are guys that have a really, really strong social media, not just somebody that can fish, but if you have a really, really good social media backing and you start getting into those higher levels, you can separate yourself from the pack a little bit, because the more social media you do, the better content you put out, the more followers you have, that's more exposure for the company. And they're going to lean more towards some of that sponsorship money to a guy or girl that can help them get their name out there further than just going out and winning a tournament on Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is that you're fishing.
Yeah, I think that's social media stuff for calm. But what I want to know is, and maybe this is Trey, what you're trying to get on is, growing up and not having bass fishing in the family, like you catfishing, crappie fishing. Did social media help you learn how to fish? Or did you go talk to the old guys in the club? Did you pick up a book? Or did you go watch YouTube on how to do this technique?
I feel like YouTube has helped a bunch, because you get a lot of like ideas from different people, and just seeing what other people are doing nowadays, and just seeing different ways of how the technique can be fished. And that's a lot different, where you would have to go out there and fish it for yourself, and you might not ever figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays you can just go on YouTube and click one button and you already have 45 videos of how to fish a jig right, or like fishing a jig or something like that.
Yeah, I'll say watching Kieran, use social media, from tying knots. He's learned how to tie FG knots. He's learned the Palomar knot. He's learned so much on social media. Even with electronics, he'll pull up a video and try settings that he sees on a video to try to improve the screen, what the fish actually look like on the screen on his electronics. And also, I guess in my opinion, I feel like the information is very time relevant. And what I mean by that is, back in the day, right, when we didn't have social media, we'd pull out books and you'd be looking at, really old books on how to fish and stuff like that. And it may not be the newest, most up-to-date techniques or the newest baits and stuff like that. And I think he uses that to kind of just understand, like he said, how to fish certain baits. What is that technique that he wants to try? And people post videos all the time about certain lakes that we go to. And I think he uses it as a tool, just like looking at the lake itself and, kind of trying to recognize structure and all those different features on lakes. So I think I see him do that. And I think it's a bonus. Obviously social media can be a pit, right? And kind of get you sucked in, but it's also can be a tool for a kid too.
And that's where I was going to go next. If you can stay out of the negative, and that, I've talked about it. I've gone on rants on our podcast already about it, but like just the people that are ignorant in social media and everything that you do is wrong. And the way I do it's the only right way to do it. If you can separate that and you can pick the good out and you maintain a positive attitude, then social media is a great tool. And it seems like, I mean, I was shocked by your perspective in the beginning when you talked about everything, including the life lessons you've learned as an 8th grader just from fishing. A lot of adults need to listen to that and just take in how truly blessed we are to be able to experience the things we do. I fish the rivers a lot. I know that's one of your favorite places. I spend a lot of time on the Roanoke and the Chowan and all down through there. And I was actually towing a buddy who lost his lower unit on the Roanoke, and I was towing him down the middle river, and had a black bear swim like 20 feet in front of the boat, and that's stuff other people are never going to experience. And there's a lot to be learned, like you said, from fishing to life lessons. You said, I've lost fish at the boat that would have smashed my PB. And then you said, but that's fishing. That's the attitude that'll carry you a long way in fishing. And it's something we talked about it on the episode prior to this with Destin that I struggle with, being able to keep that positive mental attitude. And it seems like you're well on the right track to setting yourself up for success, whether in fishing or whatever it is you decide to do in life. So
it's funny you mentioned the bear. We took off from a tournament on the actual Roanoke side, and we were running around one of the creeks going as kind of full send, come around the corner, and I see this large black, what they call widowmakers, what I thought was, big stump hanging up out of the water. And we were like full speed going back through there. And I got up beside it and realized it was moving. And I was like, and all three of us all at the same time, we said, "It's a bear!" And then we get 20 minutes up the river, and we're fishing, and we're sitting there, and Kieran and Grady are doing well, and we look up the river, and there's a huge buck swimming. As fast as you can imagine across the river. And I literally looked at Kieran, I said, "Are we in some weird zoo river or something right now? This is crazy."
You never know what you're going to see. I don't have a bear story, but I was at Falls, and I was down by the dam, and I was I don't know, where that kind of shoal is down there past the dam, but I was running back up towards Upper Barton's, and while it's open, I see something in the middle of the lake, and so I pull the boat over there, and I go off plane, and there's a coyote swimming across. It's from here to the Pete at this point, because I pulled up right next to it, and it's looking at me like, what am I going to do? And it swims on. But, deer, 2 bear sightings.
I saved a squirrel. Have you seen any? I saved a squirrel in the Roanoke last year. It was swimming across. He was in the middle in trouble when I saved him before he got eaten.
That's good. We're on story time. I have to tell this one too. And you guys, this probably happened to a lot of people, but you gut hook a fish, you tongue hook a fish, a bass, and it dies. It happens, right? I think the coolest thing that happened to me is I tossed the bass out 20 feet from the boat, and a bald eagle comes down and just grabs it. And I'm like, well, there's the circle of life right there. You know what I mean? But it's those experiences, like if your face is in your phone or your face is in the social media, not for educational purposes, you're going to miss a lot of those things, right? And I wanted to ask you this, and I'm not saying social media is bad. It's clearly good and educational, in moderation, keeping a healthy balance with those types of things. Do you put the phone down when you're on the boat, and is it all business at that point?
When we are driving to the tournament, I don't look up a single video, because I'm just thinking about what's the first spot we're pulling up to and what's the next move after that if that doesn't work. Because, if you're sitting on the boat and you're looking up YouTube videos on what spot I should go to on the lake, well, you're not going to be able to look at, spots that might be relevant to the conditions of what's happening that day. And we were on Lake Norman, and we were sitting in the boat, and I looked at my dad, and I said, "Dad, I want to go to this little pocket." And we pulled in there, and I caught about a 3.5-pound spot, and we ended up catching about 10 pounds and qualifying for the national championship, Fishermen's National Championship together on Lake Eufaula. So
that's awesome.
Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma or Alabama? That one always gets me. No, that's amazing. Yeah, you're going to miss the conditions, right? And I think that's for all you viewers that are either watching or listening. This is a good lesson that Kieran's bringing up. Let's flip the script real quick on social media for you, Darrel, aka Boat Captain, aka Coach. How has that helped you enable yourself and these young anglers? Or has it?
Yeah, kind of, I guess you say it's just informational, right? I kind of try to seek out the information to make sure that I'm doing the right things. I'm even looking at rivers and making sure places that we want to go are safe and stuff like that. So, it's a tool for me, and I get a lot of time to look at stuff, when I'm sitting around watching them fish, and the boys are, so I do get to look at social media, but they don't. They put it away and they just grind.
How is that? How do you manage your time out there? Because I would probably be pulling my hair out.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
Because
that's why he doesn't have any hair. You see
he pulled it all out because he can't cast.
Don't worry, I'm
I guess
balding.
to answer that question, just it's fascinating to me because it's not really as a drag as people might think it is.
Yeah.
Especially when you are watching two kids that just are getting in the right areas and catching fish. It can get fast paced and crazy, and you're also just listening to their conversations or maybe giving them pointers. And that's the other thing too. Like when you're first starting out and the parents, teaching kids how to fish, or getting kids into the tournament, helping them maybe make some recommendations or say, hey, that's not been working for an hour. Why don't you try something a little different? Or, just kind of giving them some ideas. As young anglers as they're growing, but then, now I just do a lot of watching.
Yeah.
But the conversations are good. We do a lot of cutting up. We have some funny little rituals that we do on the boat that, we do it for superstitious type things. And to me, that's the fun thing that we get to do throughout the day.
We're going to talk about that. But
I think we all have.
So you talked about cutting up. The joke is why did the deer cross the river? To get away from the bear? That's pretty logical, right? No, I'm just kidding. It's a new dad joke. I got to tell my kids. What are the superstitions? Like what are your rituals before a tournament? Or is it top secret?
Basically, we'll go to Sheets always, and we'll always pick up Major Melon Mountain Dew, and we'll have 3 to 6 in there, and we cannot drink one until we catch a fish. And I mean, if we're catching some dinks and we need like a big fish, we'll drink some of that, and then we'll be like boat flipping 5-pounders after that.
That's what I'm talking about. That's that game.
Yeah, so it's like it's the reward. We start out in the morning, can't open them, can't drink any of them, can't touch them. They're in the cooler on ice, and when they start catching fish, they can crack into it, but not until then.
So you punish yourself.
Yeah, but it's their little reward, and you'd be surprised. It's just a joke that we have going. Does it really work? I don't know. It seems to, but
it's one of those metal things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so that's one of them. That's that awesome. We kind of stick with is we have it in the boat. We don't touch it till we catch fish.
Kieran,
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead.
So the second one is we have a toy duck that I don't know who we probably found just going down the bank, and we just put it in the boat, and we caught 4 fish for 19 pounds of that duck, and we've caught a bunch of other super good bags with that duck.
So the rubber duck stays up in the
duck rides on the boat. Yeah, I was like, a duck lure? I get you.
Yeah, the little rubber duck rides up in the foot pedal tray up front on the trolling motor.
Kieran, banana in the boat or no?
No. We've zeroed because of banana. So we just keep them out. I mean, I feel like we've had it in a couple times and we've caught them, but I don't really.
Don't ever let banana in the boat.
It's so funny because I literally make it a point to put a banana in the boat every single time I fish. And when I'm not catching them, I look at that banana with an attitude and I'm like, I must eat you right now. Right. But then I still won't catch a fish. So I don't know if it's a banana or if I just suck.
No, it's
you know what I mean? Like,
do you have one every time you go out on Harris?
Every time I go out fishing, I have a banana in the boat.
Pete, that's your problem on Harris.
Maybe I need to put a banana.
No, because I just zeroed 3 times on Harris, and then I go to Jordan, and then I catch a 5-10. But it's just funny how we adopt these rituals and things like that. But it's memories that you're making out there on the water, and I think if there's anything that's most important, those are the ones that are important.
I want to backtrack.
Let's track the back.
I want to go back, Kieran, to your first tournament, and just what was that experience like being on the water? You know, early morning, they start calling boat numbers. You watch the adults take off, and then it's your turn. What was that like for you?
So my first tournament ever, it was on Jordan Lake, and it was about 36 degrees, and we blasted off, and it was the toughest day of my life. And I had my cousin from Wisconsin come down and fish with me, and I remember I was throwing a spinnerbait on the back of the boat, and I hooked one, and it came off right out of the boat, but we kept fishing, and then got 3 o'clock, and then we were just like, oh, best we'll get the next time.
That's right. Were you just like in
attitude.
awe with the blast off though? Had you seen anything like that before? Not on
No.
TV?
And then my favorite thing was definitely the weigh-ins,
Mm-hmm.
the old column weigh-ins.
Yep. Wondering how they caught him, right?
And it was at that point he knew he should throw an A-rig.
Yeah. Jordan, anytime it's below 40 on Jordan, it's a tough day. So.
I make it a point not to throw an A-rig on the rip wrap. I'm just throwing it out there, right? But that's why I don't win them. So, no, that's cool, man. So, I want to recap a little bit and ask about the high school, the junior and the high school bass stuff, Darrel. The roles and responsibilities of the boat captain and slash the coach, like there's no rule book. I mean, there's rule books, right? But there's no coach's playbook, if you will, for this. Is that correct?
No, there's not. Although, I would say that a lot of times other coaches, if you know somebody's fairly new, they'll help you, right? They'll feed you as much information and kind of just way things are or whatever. But no, there's no playbook, but I also say it's also, it's not rocket science either. Like you can pick it up pretty fast, especially if you've fished before. You just ask, and the people are always very nice to kind of help you out. And that's the thing, like with Collins, I go back to that, as being that grassroots type thing. It's a great place for people to experience, even parents alone, to learn, right, what that tournament fishing is like and figure out if it's worth the investment. By the time you get over to B.A.S.S, even in the junior division, you get to help the kids a little bit. You can run the trolling motor. So in the junior division, you can run the trolling motor and you can help them net fish and you can help them coal fish and you can help them tie on lures and stuff like that. But once you get up to the high school division, the only thing I'm allowed to do on the boat in the high school division is to drive the big motor, and then I can help them coal, and that's it.
Okay. Can you help them fizz fish?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you give advice at that point, or is that part of coaching? Is it done? Are you just a spectator, more or less, a marshal?
Yeah, more or less a spectator in the high school division, but the junior division, you can encourage and you can make recommendations and stuff like that.
Okay. So when it comes to, you talked about like people give advice, and we talked about this in one of our previous episodes, or one of them that hasn't dropped yet. That's something that it either happens like willingly within this industry, or you're not getting a word out of anyone. Do you guys see that in the youth division at all, where people aren't willing to just share information and talk to you? Kieran shaking his head.
Yeah, some people are very competitive. Yeah. But I will tell you, you can ask Kieran what our rule is when his friends are asking. What is the rule for us?
So the rule is we can tell them where they're fishing, but they still gotta catch the fish.
Yeah, so we help as much as we can, right? We'll say, hey, people asking how you catching them, or are you catching them and stuff like that. I'm kind of an open book on it because, again, they got to catch them, right? Right. It's the same thing. They got to go out there and they got to put in the effort and find them and stuff like that. So I don't really I don't do smoke and mirrors and hide stuff.
You can't catch other people's fish. I mean, we have all shared waypoints with each other. Go on this exact spot tomorrow at this time, and you will slay them because we had a great day. And they go out there and nothing happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't catch other people's fish. So if you can
Yeah.
help other people out to give them a little more insight of how you approach that situation, then maybe they can learn something and get a little bit better too.
And to attract the youth and even parents to the sport at the junior B.A.S.S level or any level, a lot of people are hungry for information, but if no one's willing to share with them, then it's going to discourage them from potentially joining the sport,
You're
right? And that's
absolutely.
We talked about like growing the industry in another episode. Like, well, you can't really grow it if you're not willing to tell people anything. It's just a bad business model. So, for those listening and watching, like, share information with people, get them interested, help them out. I mean, every single person in this room has helped each other out. And I know that we helped each other out before, and it's important. And that's how camaraderie is built and stuff. And of course, there's the competitive nature. You don't want to tell them all the secrets if you're fishing for big money. But if you're trying to attract the youth and parents to the sport, I think you're not doing them any justice whatsoever by keeping everything a secret.
You're right. And, and again, the relationships I see that Kieran has and develop with not only kids, but that some of the gentlemen that we talk to at Collins and stuff like that, they're priceless. There's such good-hearted, nice people out there that you meet. And, I like for Kieran to see these guys because that's what I look at those guys. That's what I want him to be when he gets older is that good-hearted person that just is willing to help everybody.
So Ben, Pete, what do you got? What do you guys have for these guys?
Yeah. So next Sunday, I guess, but very shortly, you all headed down to Florida for a big event. So why don't you tell us what that event is, how you get to fish that event, and kind of what you're feeling for that tournament.
So we are leaving Thursday. We're leaving Wednesday night. We're driving all night and fishing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tournament will be on Sunday. Check-in Saturday, and it's the Bass Nation High School Open on the Harris Chain of Lakes, and we are thinking, as of now, we don't think it's like we think it can be on shell beds, but we think there'll be more of hydrilla and looking for the grass down there, and looking for the more deeper grass, more offshore grass. Of what we're thinking, and we're thinking some like hard spots in the grass, dragging a worm, throwing maybe a lipless or a chatterbait, and then maybe some other little baits up the sleeve like a Strike King hybrid hunter. But really just fishing grass, and there might be a few on the bed. So hopefully we can find a few.
So
and back to your question, like how do we get there? What is it? So it's a Bass Open event. So there's multiple ways. The ultimate goal in high school is to qualify for the national championship. You can either do that through your state by winning first or second in the point series, or you can win your state championship, or you can finish in the top 25 at any of the Opens events. And they do 4 events throughout the season. And so those are all qualifiers to get to the high school national championship. And so we like going to Florida. We got some family down there. So it's just an opportunity to go fish some warm water, warm area, in January. And it's a very fun event.
I'm trying to find a way to get down to Florida just to fun fish to escape this cold up here.
Ben's going to jump in the back of your truck. You won't know it, but he'll be there with you.
We leave, like I said, we leave Wednesday. We're driving overnight. We're going to fish. So when Kieran was talking about Thursday, Friday, Saturday, those are practice days for us. And, it's, again, the ultimate goal for Kieran is to one day fish professionally. This is what it's like, and this is kind of, obviously it's the next level. Those people that are kind of getting into it, and just wanting to get their kids in the tournament, they probably wouldn't do that. But we've progressed up a little bit, and now this is like the next level. He's been planning, he's been studying.
So this is the
lakes, looking at maps and stuff like that, and he's developed a plan that we're going to see if we can execute and see if it works.
This is again the B.A.S. High School Open on the Harris chain. It's one of the qualifying events to make the national event. And what happens when you win national? Is there a scholarship or is there something?
Do you punch your ticket to the classic?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the best.
So who's right now? Or I was watching it the other day. Was it Manetti from North Carolina was fishing the national championship?
Charlotte.
Yep. Okay.
All right. One more thing.
So again, interesting. You mentioned Manetti. So he's with UNC Charlotte, right? And he made it last year out of the college bracket championship. But Thursday and Friday, before we fish, Thursday and Friday, the college B.A.S.S guys are on Harris Chain this week. So they'll be down there competing. They're practicing now, and they'll compete Thursday, Friday. Saturday's off, and then Sunday is the high school division.
Yeah, it gets
high school and juniors.
It gets busy down there because 2 years ago when I was down there, they had the big B.A.S. event, and then I had to come back and replace a motor. And then they had high school. They had the B.A.S. Open, so the guys were showing up for there. So it gets absolutely crazy. But Kieran, I will give you, I don't know if this is really advice, but this is, because this won't drop, this episode won't drop till after the event. But if you look up Gino Losi on YouTube, he's a guide out there. But he has shown sometimes you can go on the state websites and find out the water current for all the lakes. And so you can see, and the oxygen level. So you can kind of narrow down where you perhaps want to search. I may be telling you stuff you already know, and you've already dug all that information out, but it's a great source to find oxygen levels, current, and I think water clarity on that report too. So clean water is a big deal down there.
I got some questions, Kieran, just quick. What's your favorite technique?
Frog.
Throwing a frog.
Yep.
Done it.
Gotta be.
I've just been throwing it. It's probably frogging and flipping because the last year we've definitely found the flipping bite a lot better than we have usually, and that's kind of excelled lately. But also the frog, just like throwing the frog anywhere.
That's right.
Anywhere we go.
Yeah, it doesn't get much
Kieran
better.
has 2 rods completely dedicated for frog. Nothing else goes on the rods.
Me too. At least 2. What's your PB at right now?
789.
You're gonna break that in Florida.
Hopefully
Sunday.
I'll be in the tournament.
Hopefully
Yes.
Sunday you'll break that in Florida.
Yeah.
I have just a question for both of you. How do you balance academics with tournament fishing?
Like, the easy answer is it's a requirement.
Okay.
If his grades aren't there, then he's not fishing.
Okay.
And so a little backstory: Kieran struggled in school, and he struggled focusing and stuff like that. I never see him struggling focusing when he's fishing, like it's at his pace.
Mm-hmm.
But we use it as a tool now. Like this is, the end reward for him is to be able to fish, and his grades are well enough now. He's in the junior beta club, so
Awesome.
he's obviously doing the right thing. And same thing with sports. I don't let him just fish. He's required to play sports, one sport each season, also just to kind of be active. I want him to be well rounded. And he does. He works really hard, but it's just some basic requirements from my perspective.
Couple more questions. Kieran, is bass fishing a sport?
Yeah, I mean, if guys aren't winning $100,000 just like you're winning a dang Super Bowl,